Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat. Last week, joined by Paul and Danny. This is the Undercard betting tip show ahead of Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 2. As you all know by now, this is a pay-per-view event, so please do look at the link in the description and give it a click and purchase the pay-per-view via us. It would be really helpful, and yeah, we'd really appreciate it. Gents, we're nearly there. We're just saying off camera, we've been talking about this fight and the undercard several times now. But yeah, we're nearly there, and looking forward to seeing what tips you've got for the undercard. The undercard, I think it's had mixed reviews, to be completely fair, but there are some important fights there and some good names on there as well. And I'll be watching. I think it's still worth watching. But yeah, first kind of question to you guys is, I'll go to Paul. I'll go to you first. What are you looking forward to most from Saturday's undercard?
Thanks, Eliot. Yeah, obviously main event aside, I think that what you made a fair assessment there. I think, it's an undercard. I'll definitely tune in. It's not the best one you've ever watched. It's not going to be the worst one you've ever watched. There are names that jump out. Like me personally, I'm a big Callum Smith fan. So just seeing him back on the card and, in a fight that the winner gets a mandatory for a world title, I think, that'll be interesting. And then obviously another heavyweight fight with two undefeated heavyweights in Hergovich and Zhang. I think out of all the fights on the undercard, they're probably the two that I'm most interested in. But then obviously I mentioned Jack as well, former world champion. So yeah, a few good names, but probably out of all of them, Callum Smith I'm most looking forward to, just because I think he's sensational.
Yeah, nice. And looking forward to seeing Callum Smith back in action. I have to see if he is fighting for a world title end of this year or beginning of next year. Fingers crossed. Danny, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's an all right undercard, especially like factoring in when you have like a mega fight like AJ Usyk 2 and the fighters obviously get massive purses. Sometimes you'll see like a really like threadbare undercard, but I think this one's quite good. Like Paul, looking forward to seeing Callum Smith, obviously second fight up at light heavyweight. I think he can cause some real problems at light heavyweight, even for the likes of Beterbiev and Bivol. But I'm most looking forward to the sort of on the undercard, the other heavyweight fight, final eliminator for that IBF. Finally seeing some progression for Filip Hergovich, sort of real, like a lot of people are massive on him, still a bit of an unknown quantity as a pro anyway, but that would be what I'm looking forward to most in the undercard, the co-main Hergovich Zhang.
Good stuff. Okay, so yeah, without further ado, it's a bit weird doing this with the three of us rather than the two of us, but we'll crack on. Paul, we'll go to your first. What is your first undercard betting tip for this weekend?
Yeah, thanks, Eliot. So obviously I mentioned the Smith fight there, and I don't want to try and butcher his opponent's name, as we've been given stick in the past for improper pronunciation. But yeah, the Callum Smith fight, it's a final eliminator, and see, yeah, as you say, who could fight. I think this isn't the WBC final eliminator. So again, a fight that on paper would be a good win for Callum Smith. Only his second fight at light heavyweight. He's still definitely getting used to the weight. I think even at light heavyweight, he's still a big light heavyweight. Definitely. I think he's the same size as Usyk. I think he's 6'3", which is a bit mad when you think about it. But yeah, I think that Callum Smith will pass this test in flying colours, to be honest. I think the stoppage is almost inevitable. For me, it's just a matter of when that stoppage will come. When you are up against fighters that you don't know a whole lot about, it's difficult to say how tough they are. Have they got a good chin? What are their minerals like? But I think that the Callum Smith stoppage in the middle third of the fight in rounds 5 to 8 looks a reasonable bet to me. I don't think he'll blow this guy away. But then again, I also could see him, potentially getting a knockdown in the third or the fourth, leading into a finish in the middle rounds. And at a price of 7-4 for Callum Smith by KO or TKO in rounds 5 to 8, that kind of jumped out at me a little bit. Because as I said, I'm really impressed by Callum Smith, and he's clearly carried his power up to light heavyweight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, can't forget how much puncher Callum Smith is. I think I'm seeing the knockouts of Hassan Dam and Rocky Fielding are two that stick out to me, really. But no, absolutely massive punch, and we saw the stoppage last year as well at his light heavyweight debut. Danny, going to switch to you now. What is your first tip for us this weekend?
So my first tip actually comes from the Jack fight, obviously up against Richard Rivera. I think this is a really good price, and it's Jack to win on points, which you can get as big as 10-3. Richard Rivera, sort of bit of an unknown quantity as well. Coming with this, he's obviously undefeated. The level of opposition has really been quite poor. He's never really been in trouble, and he has been in with some fellas who, you know, big punchers, moved up to heavyweight. He's a lot younger than Badou Jack, who is, as I say, getting on a bit. Over the 10 rounds, similar to Rivera, the level of opposition Jack's been in with in the last 3 years has also been really, really poor. Jack obviously has got a bit of power, but, you know, again, up in cruiserweight, up against the bigger man, I think, as I say, over the 10 rounds, I think the 10-3 that you can get on Jack decision is definitely where the value is in that fight. So that's what I've gone for my first tip. Yeah,
interesting. I feel like it's a strange under the radar fight, because I feel like a lot of people maybe won't have heard of Rivera, but will kind of understand he's an undefeated fighter. And Badou Jack, I rate Badou Jack highly, but the fights against James DeGale, George Groves were a very long time away now. So yeah, an interesting one to predict. I've had a look at the odds, and I've noticed Badou Jack is 1-5 just to win. So I think that just kind of says something about how the bookies feel this fight's going to go. But yeah, really, really nice one there, Danny. It's an interesting fight to analyse. Paul, going to switch back to you. What's your second and final tip this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's the one that we've mentioned a couple of times already in this video, and it is the other heavyweight fight on the card between Filip Hergovich and Zhilei Zhang. I know there's I think the general consensus here is that Hergovich is probably going to be too strong for Zhang, and I completely agree, to be honest. I think personally Zhang is quite slow and cumbersome.
Quite slow.
And I don't think you can get away with that against someone like Filip Hergovich, who obviously, you know, on paper hasn't fought that many great fighters either. But, you know, it's just one of those fighters that he's been wanting these big fights and they haven't come for him. He's 14-0 with 12 KOs, 7 knockouts on the spin. Over half of them have come in the first 3 or 4 rounds, and I think that could happen again. So Filip Hergovich to win by knockout, TKO in rounds 1-4 is 13-8. I think he'll be able to blow Zhang away.
Nice one, mate. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Hergovich strong favourite, and I don't want to kind of big him up too much, but I am going to. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I think he will become world heavyweight champion. I'm not saying he beats any of the top guys now, but no, just rate him highly. Danny, what's your second tip?
So I'm showing a bit more faith in Zhang than Paul here. Don't get me wrong, not picking him to win. Mine is Hergovich in around 7-12, which you can get 3-1. I think Zhang's got enough to keep Hergovich honest for the first few rounds. He's a southpaw. He's probably, like, in terms of one punch power, the heaviest punching southpaw heavyweight there is. And another thing, like in Hergovich's recent fights, he's been fighting fellas who are predominantly a lot shorter than him, whereas Zhang's listed as the same height. I think he might be slightly taller than Hergovich. Obviously, as Paul says, Zhang is very slow, but I think that power will be enough to keep Hergovich honest for the first few rounds, as I say. Zhang, his gas tank also gets questioned quite a bit. He has went, you know, the 10 rounds this a couple of times. I don't think he will go 10 rounds with Hergovich. I think this 7-12, it will be more 7 or 8 as opposed to 11 or 12. But I think, again, at the odds, again, as well, it's a massive fight for Hergovich, and, you know, he will be conscious of that power Zhang has early. So that's my thinking for backing Zhang to last just a wee bit longer than Paul has.
I think what's interesting is that Zhang, the fight that I can't get out of my head is the Zhang Jerry Forrest fight. Do you remember that one? When he knocked him down like 3 times, but then in the last 4 rounds or something like that was like holding on for dear life.
Yeah,
and I had to go to the hospital after the fight. It's not funny, but and I just can't help but think, if you're Zhang, surely you've got to put on Hergovich early, because if you get past round 5, round 6, Hergovich is still going to be there. Whereas if Zhang faded the way he did against Jerry Forrest, Hergovich is going to make him pay. So it is kind of an interesting one, because I feel like Zhang's, and also if you look at Zhang, I believe a lot of Zhang's KOs have come quite early. and I think he'll try and do the same against Hergovich. So that's how Zhang can win this fight. But it's just interesting. I think it's an interesting one. It's two heavyweights, both of who can punch, both who are undefeated. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. So yeah, as per tradition, gents, if you let me know the results of your double, if you were going to stick a £10 note on it, what would your return be? Paul, we're going to go to you first.
Yeah, so obviously if you pick the Smith knockout in rounds 5 to 8 and the Hergovich knockout in rounds 1 to 4, that comes out at 6.2 to 1. So £10 returning £72 roughly, including your stake, which I could be tempted to place myself.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. You can get 2 USYK Joshua pay-per-views for that price. Danny, going to go to you next. What are the results of your double?
Yeah, so if you were to place a tenner on mines, and I wouldn't advise placing much more than a tenner on it, but that'll pay out at just over 15 to 1, like 15.2 to 1. So you'll get just over 160 quid back from a tenner stake on that. Obviously, both placed in at around 3 to 1, just over 3 to 1. So big risk, big returns.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gents. Final one from me. Danny, when I spoke to you last week, what round did you think you went? If I said to you, if you had to put like a 5-1 round from USYK to win, was it round 9? I can't remember.
I think it was round 9.
Round 9.
Round 9.
Okay. Can't remember what the odds were. I'll be completely honest. But Paul, same question to you. We all know you think Joshua's going to win. It would say like it was a free bet or just a fiver. 1 round. What round is Joshua going to knock USYK out on Saturday night?
Short and simple, round 7.
Round 7, and I'm seeing odds of 20 to 1 for that. Which, okay, we'll see. We'll play this back on Sunday morning. Gents, thank you for your time. It's been great. Looking forward to the undercard just a little bit more now, and yeah, looking forward to seeing some fights on Saturday night. Yeah, live on Sky Sports Box Office. Danny and Paul, thank you very much for your time. We'll speak to you soon. Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye, boys.